Good evening. This is Passionate Bliss, and I am pleased to introduce to you tonight phase one of my Black Love T-shirt line collection. Um, I will not be able to show this collection on any other channel but YouTube. So come on over to my YouTube channel, Passionate Bliss, comment, like, subscribe, share, and watch as I unfold the first edition of my T-shirt line collection. There are four collection lines. There's the emotions line, which I'm going to introduce today. There is the legend line. There is the king and queen line. And then there's the ratchet line, last but not least. And I'm going to give you a sneak peek of those lines at the end of the show. Okay. So YouTube is the only platform that I'll be able to show it there. Okay. Um, the the purpose of this t-shirt line was to begin to break patterns. We want to start with dialogue. We want to reconnect men and women, in particular Black men and women, because the statistics have not been in our favor. And so, with that, no further ado, I will go ahead and introduce the first emotion in my emotion line, which can only be love. This is the female line. She's going to ask for love because a closed mouth don't get fed. Your little mouth? Okay. And so he's going to answer to her. He's going to let her know what he's able to do. Uh-oh. He says that he is Team Black Love. He's letting her know he's on her team. She must have fell over because he was supporting her. He was supporting
Too much love knocked her over.
So she fell over. Okay. But what I wanted to do was initially to start discussing the what. What is the issue between Black men and women? And I'm saying that there's an issue because the statistics bear that out. So we're going to look at some statistics and we're going to see this is what's wrong. This is what has resulted from that. And then we're going to try to start dialogue from there. Okay. So these statistics came from the 1998 Census Bureau. It represents a 48-year span from 1950 to 1998. And we're going to see what happened during that 48-year span. Okay, the first statistics that we're going to discuss with my male co-host, who is Body and Soul, and he's going to represent for the fellas. His job is also to keep me from man dashing, which I will try to keep to a minimum because we're trying to reconnect and we're trying to have dialogue. And we're trying to figure out what the issues are. Okay, so the first statistics that we're going to go over is what is wrong with her? Oh, I'm bumping her. That's what's wrong. I'm sorry, ma'am. Okay, the first statistic that we're going to go over is how Black women age 16 and over are not marrying. Okay, so in 1950, the number or percentage of women 16 and over who never married was 21%. And in that 48-year span to 1998, it dropped to 41%. Okay, and I have other statistics, but I don't need them right now. So for the women who never married, so Body and Soul, I'm going to ask you this question. What do you think is the reason or could be some factors why Black women 16 and over are not marrying? Because it was 21%, and that's almost doubled to 41% now. 41% are not getting married.
Well, in 1950, women, probably early in the 1950s, age 16, they were able to get married. Nowadays, you have to be 18 and over. So the age factor in marrying is a factor on this, but with the statistics going up in 1998 to 41, that might be one. And then two, you have to look at the rate of incarceration of Black men. That has risen from the time from 1950 on. So, yeah.
Okay. So you think that it's mostly outside factors, not necessarily that there was an issue between men and women?
No, it's not. It's not nothing between men and women, Black men and women. I think it's outside factors. I think it's more of the incarceration rates. I mean, that's a whole gamma right there. If you have the incarceration rate jumping up, where 30% more Black men are being incarcerated than white men, you have the lack of Black men in the community to take care of their families and whatnot, to where, if a Black woman wants to marry a Black man, but the quality and the quantity of Black men in society is pretty much incarcerated, and then they're not there to marry, and then now they have to try to survive on their own, in a sense, which is a whole different ballgame there too.
Okay, so there's the fact that they're being forced to survive on their own. Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting because I hadn't really considered that before. But because I do know that a lot of people will say that women aren't getting married anymore or as much because they don't have to. There's the position that
Well, this trickles down to that
women
too.
want, yeah, that
It's a
women,
trickle down effect, and it's a
yeah.
mindset on that too. As we go on, I'll explain that even further.
Because I know that, and I will say and admit that I have entertained that position as well. That women, were dependent on men. Women weren't in the workforce, and then when the World War, happened, women were made to come out of the house, and then they started liking it, and they didn't want to go back in the house. As
Well,
soon as
that's
they did.
that's more of because of
Started.
economic situations where you have to have two income households now. With inflation and all that stuff, it's kind of hard to survive off of one income households where both of them have no work and all that stuff. So that's a different ball game there.
Okay. Okay. And so we're gonna walk away with the position that it's age factor, incarceration, the cost of living has gone up, and two
Hmm.
households are needed, but the women still aren't getting married. They're 41% are still not getting married. And I do know with that position um, that women don't have to have men, they don't have to put up with, being in the house all day, that they have the luxury now of coming out of the house and taking care of themselves. That might be one of the reasons why they're not getting married. Um,
Right.
so, so we're
Because
gonna,
because of the men are incarcerated, let's say for instance that they have babies, and then the father is being incarcerated, so now they're forced to take care of the child alone, which
mm,
makes them feel that okay, if I could do this, why do I need a man? Because I'm able to survive on my own like that, and it's all this crazy mindset of when you start incarcerating our strong father figure black men to where now women having to survive on their own without that black man in that child's life, you
right,
know, that mindset start coming in. Why do I need a man because of that? But you also have to look at it too, you know, what's the child's mentality going to be like? All right,
right,
dad is not around anymore. Mom is the one that's, both mom and dad. So that's
mhm,
another factor.
right. So that mentality was given birth to, and it trickled down. That little girls are saying, "I don't need a man either," and the little boys are saying, feeling like we're not needed, and there's no need to get married because she'll be okay without us. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay. And
I mean, when
so,
you look at the Jim Crow era, they want to divide us up. They want us to feel weak and not being dependent on each other because they know the strength of a black man in the family taking care of his household and stuff is pretty strong. So if they could take that out and incarcerate us to the point to where we're not there anymore, and then they start, I'm sure you've heard of prison. I mean, from school to prison pipeline.
mhm,
They start trying to get our young kids into that pipeline sooner.
mhm,
First offense. I mean, it was just on the news the other day where a little girl was in school and they
right,
handcuffed her and threw her in jail. All right,
right,
so now she has an offense on her. So let's say, for instance, later on down in her life, a couple of years later, she get pulled over and something else happens. That's strike two.
mhm,
Now they have her in the system. They're doing that to our youth
right,
in leaps and bounds. All right, so now you taking the strength of the family away,
mhm,
the woman now having to be strong enough to where she don't need a man anymore because she could do this on her own.
mhm. Okay, okay, yeah, and I did see that on the news, and I was wondering, why did nobody call the parent, or what happened? Why wasn't the parent? Could they not reach the parent? To me, I mean, I don't see why they didn't call social services. I don't know why they called the police. They're supposed to call DSS
What
because
if that
the
child
parents
was
couldn't
white?
answer.
That child would have been put in timeout. I
Okay.
mean, just call it like it is. But because the child was black, they want to look at us as threats and all that stuff, and they want to put us into the prison systems earlier than normal.
Right.
All right, so that takes the strength of the family out to where women now
Right.
feel they don't need a man. I'm strong. I don't need a man. Why do I need a man? Stuff like
Right.
that, which is, I mean, more power to you, but really that's not. I think a family should be having a man and a woman in that family. The man, being the strength of that family
Right.
and raising them kids, and then the daughters see how dad is the strength of that family. Now the daughter, seeing how dad is treating mom and running the house and all that stuff, Now she wants to, she'll grow up, want to get married and have kids and stuff like that, and continue that.
Right.
Daughter raised in a family household without a strong dad there,
Right.
and where's she gonna learn that from?
Right.
The
Because
boyfriend not going to teach her.
right, because that's normal to her now
Yeah,
to do that. Because
right,
like I grew up with a two-parent family, so that's normal to me. And so I always had
right.
the expectation that I would grow up and be married. Um,
That's what
but
I'm getting at.
yeah, because that's normal to them. Okay, and so and one of the results, the statistic is that in the 1998 Census Bureau, 72% of Black children were being raised in a single parent home. Now I don't have the statistics for 1950 because I don't think that they were really collecting a lot of information on that, so that was hard to find. So I don't have the 1950 statistics, but 72% of Black children being raised in a single parent home is problematic to me, with or without the former statistics. Okay, because that's well over half. You
Well,
know.
if you go back and look at again the incarceration statistics,
Mhm.
if you have from 1960 to 2010, I mean, if you have per 100,000 population, you got like what 1,300. Um, no, let me back up. You have in 1960, you have about 1,300 black men in jail per 100,000 of the population, people in the population, whereas in 2010 you got 4,300 per 100,000. So that's
Mhm.
about a 30% increase.
Mhm.
So when you look at how you have black children being raised in a single family home, it's because daddy's not there because they're
Mhm.
down the road in lockup.
Right, right.
Uh,
Because I know that a lot of women, and you hear them say, and I've said it before too, until I actually look at the stats, they were saying, oh, there's a man shortage, and I said, okay, well, let me go look and see what the birth rates, how they changed. The birth rates were not a decrease.
No, no,
There were
no,
more male
no,
children
no, no.
born in, I looked at the years from 1990 when I graduated high school to I forgot, I think it was like I looked from 2000 from 2000 I think it was from 2001. And I look at the births, and I was like, no, there were enough men. I looked at the year 1990. I was like, there were more males born than females. There was no man shortage. So something happened to the men. I did find the incarceration rates, and I was like, that's where they went. They're in jail.
Yeah,
They jailed them all, and so there wasn't
right.
actually a man shortage. The men were just not
Uh,
there.
no, you have brothers sitting there probably doing life over weed.
Mhm.
All right. Weed is now legal in a bunch of states, but yet and still, they're
They
still
need
sitting in
they
jail.
need they need to dismiss them all. They need to dismiss
Right.
them all. Or maybe they need to appeal, go back and appeal.
Don't get me started. But
The
that's
courts would be
that's
bogged
that's
down.
why. But that's how I truly feel. That's why you have 72% in '98 of single family homes,
Mhm.
and it's rising. Just like I said, from the school to the prison pipeline, it's going to rise even higher unless something is done with that.
Right, right. And that's our goal. This is our mission. Our mission is to start the dialogue. And I felt like if they had a strong male role model in the home and they could see that, dynamic going on, that they would be, more encouraged to follow his footsteps and not,
Right.
end up in the juvenile system.
Right.
And I do have my black couples, my next statistics, black couples who do get married end in divorce, 48%. 48%. So if almost half of the couples, now that's going to be the biggie, the big one to figure out, and that's probably the biggest one that this one is going to, that this T-shirt line is going to address, the divorce rate. Now, what do
Hmm.
you think is the driving cause of divorce rate that's making it in 1998 48%?
Well, probably lack of communication,
Mm-hmm.
maybe
Right.
social media. These players out here
Right.
now on social media. What's those dating sites and they getting caught on that. Every time I hear about somebody getting caught on that, I'm like another player that went down in flames.
Mm-hmm.
But
Infidelity.
yeah, my parents been married 57 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure they've had their struggles and whatnot, but their mindset was not to give up. I think now
Right.
young people give up easy. You throw in the towel and move on instead of just saying, "Hey, look, we're in this for the long haul. We made
Right.
vows in front of God, and we're going to make this work."
Right. I don't know, for some reason they think it's going to be, romance and flowers and roses, the whole time,
Yes.
and it isn't,
No.
unless there's, abuse or infidelity, or I don't know, I guess lack of getting a job. Unless that's going on, I don't see why you can't work it through, communicate and work it through. So, because even when I ask, what's the most important thing in a relationship, everybody says communication. And so to me, there's a big communication breakdown, even when I see, especially in the youth, when you listen to the rap, you listen to the music, you listen to, and you watch the videos, there's abuse and they're glorifying abuse, abusive speech, abusive actions, fighting and arguing and yelling. They're glorifying it. And so I feel like there's been a huge breakdown.
Or even how they demonize women. They call them bees and hoes and everything
Right.
else.
Right. So
I mean,
that's why, the mission of this T-shirt line collection is to get us to talk and to
right.
learn to communicate properly. And we go through that. I've gone through that too on some other videos, but we're going to go back through it again, as we bring out the T-shirt line collections, because they're going to ask for other emotions like love, respect, honesty, and he's going to answer her. And if you notice, she's just speaking. She's just saying what she needs. She doesn't have a
Mhm.
face. He has a face because he's going to look her in the eyes and he's going to tell her what it is he's able to do, and and how they can work on it together. So she's asking for love. He's telling her he's on her team. Okay.
But
And
he should also anticipate her needs too.
right.
Instead of always
Yeah.
telling her what she wants, he should always anticipate. He should know every heartbeat that she's about to have if
Right.
he's in tune with her.
Right.
See,
And,
that's lacking. That's lacking in the black household.
mhm.
When the king of the house is sitting down there in lockup, about to be threatened to be somebody's queen. You know how it goes on in jails.
Right. And another thing I see lacking too is that a lot of couples are together, but they're not thinking and working as a unit. They're individually want to put their needs first, and you can tell decisions are made without thinking, how's it going to affect this unit? How's it going to affect this family? How's it going to affect my kids? They're thinking about, oh, I want this car. What you really need, I want this hot sports car. What you really need is a minivan because you got 3 kids. And so a lot of times you'll see them, they got 2 different cars, that they're traveling in because he wanted the sports car instead. And I've actually seen that happen before with a couple that I know. But after a few months, he had to go back and get
But
he got converted,
I think
so
one of the biggest things that should happen, like before people get married, young folks, marriage counseling, that they should sit down with a couple of old couples that's been married for years and years and just talk and discuss what the trials and tribulations they had to go through. I know times are different now from back then and whatnot, but you can still learn from the older generation, and the young
right,
people who do that. They just figure they know everything, and they get in there. As soon as they get in the first argument, they're ready to run down the street and walk out the house
right,
instead of dealing with the issue and moving on and learning to forgive and forget.
right,
But if you listen to the old couples, and they've gone through some stuff.
right.
They've gone through some stuff, and if you can learn from them, and then
Mhm.
you learn that, hey, I can survive whatever.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, and the last, I think, stat I have, and I feel like this is the result. This is the result of the Black women 16 or over never marrying at 41%. The result of the Black children being raised in a single parent home. The results of those who do getting married get divorced. The result, I feel like, is the Black youth in the juvenile system. In 1950, the Black youth in the juvenile system represented 15%. In 1997, the Black youth in the juvenile system represented 40%. And I feel like that's the result. And so my goal with this collection is to go backwards, go back to the top, starting with Black men and women, and fix what's wrong at the top. And I feel like what's the result at the bottom, the Black youth in the juvenile system, I feel like that will be turned around. So that's one of my biggest goals. It's not just a T-shirt line, it's a mission, actually. It's a mission to reconnect. And we're going to start by talking about what they talk about. Okay.
So take that back all the way to the beginning. These Black youth going into the juvenile system. All right,
Mhm.
if you had parents that supported them kids in school and show up to like school functions, PTA meetings, stuff like that, got involved with the community. Now, if the daddy was there, not in
Right.
prison, all right, and then that statistic would drop drastically because right now you have 3 times as more likely that a Black youth will be expelled from school than a white one, and 4 times more likely will have multiple being expelled and multiple suspensions, stuff like that than white. That's because if you're not involved in that child's education in the school system, the school is going to teach them kids whatever they want. They're going to treat them however they want, stuff like that. And the parents don't support it,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know. But
Yeah.
if you taking a black man out the house and the woman having to do everything and having to work two, three, four jobs to make ends meet, that supporting the school is not there, and now your child is being subjected to being expelled for little minor stuff. And going back to that poor child the other week, having handcuffs and put in a police station and police car. Now, if the parents were involved in that school,
Right.
on a daily and weekly basis, up there knowing them teachers and everything else, that would not have happened.
Right.
But when they
Right.
split our families up like that, stuff like that goes on. And then we sit back and wonder why.
Right. Because I know, I mean, what you said about parents being involved in school and in the community. But if you're, 72% are raising a single parent home, and she's working one or two jobs, she can't run down to the school. She can't. She
Thank
ain't
you.
got time to be involved in the community.
Thank you.
Because she's working doubles, 16 hours a day, come home is exhausted. She does not have time. She can't go to the PTA. She can't have the school conference or whatever. And if she doesn't have a family that's a village helping her out, which I had, she can't make it. She can't make it. And then her child is seen as, riffraff where the parents don't care. And they get treated like riffraff because the parents
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah.
That little girl, her situation only came out because they got embarrassed. They got embarrassed in the news media, and that's why they dropped the charges against her. But she was charged. She was actually charged. And
Right. So now they have her in the system.
right. And so they dropped them, but she was charged. And so
But look at the impact that have on that child mentally now. Even though they dropped it, that child is still damaged mentally from that. Being handcuffed, treated like that, thrown into a car, taken down to the police station, probably fingerprinted and everything else. Now that child's scarred for life because of that mess.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah. And so I feel like and then she may possibly grow up with that stigma in the back of her mind that this is what's happened, especially if she's from a community where she sees it happening a lot, and so that would be normal to her. It becomes normal, and then they fall into this situation where 40% of them are in the juvenile system.
Okay, so they never said anything in the news about where was her dad at, what did her dad
Right.
All right, so that strong black male influence. The news doesn't report stuff like that because they don't want them to see how strong and impactful a black male in the family is, because they want to tear that apart,
Right.
incarcerate us, and then break down the whole system in a sense, the black family.
Right. Okay.
And,
Yeah.
and
So, so that's my goal for this line is to stop it. And we got to start with the parents, with the man and the woman. They have to start as a nucleus, as a base where they're working together. Because if both parents were available, you can't tell me that you couldn't reach both parents. They have the contact numbers there. You couldn't reach either one of the parents. I find it hard to believe that you couldn't reach either one, or grandma, whoever was in the book. Everybody was busy.
they probably never met the parents.
Yeah. So
They probably. I mean, if you're involved in a child's school, the teachers would know you. They would never call.
Right.
They would be hesitant on pulling something because they know you.
Right.
All right. If they don't know you, they don't fear you.
Right. Because I remember one teacher, she called me and because she knew me, and I'd been to the conferences. She knew me, and she knows to call me. I told her, if you had any problem with him, you call me. This is my cell phone. You call me, and she would. Because I remember once my son, he hadn't done his homework at home. He did it in class. So when she came around and asked for homework at first, he didn't have it. He did it in class while she was teaching, and he wanted to turn it in, and she wouldn't accept it. She said, "No, this is homework. It's supposed to be done at home in the class." However, the student handbook said that homework should be turned in by the end of the day. So he was trying to make her take it, because he said no, because this kid was too smart for his own good. No, the student handbook says that I have the end of the day. I have to turn in today, and I have it right now. and I think, or it was at the end of class, one of the two, and he was trying to make her take the homework. So she called me on my cell phone, and she said, I know, he's aware of the regulations and he's aware of the handbook, but he should do his homework at home, and he's wants to insist. I'm just asking for you to back me up and support me as his teacher and him learning to comply by the rules. And I said, okay, put him on the phone. And so I said, you are not going to bully her into taking your homework. You didn't do your homework at home, which we'll discuss that because you sat on the couch next to me watching TV last night and your homework wasn't done. And so I said, you're not going to bully her. You want to stick to the letter of the law, not the spirit of the law. She should have done it at home. She's not going to have to take that homework. And you're going to explain to me why you didn't do your homework. And so I put her back on the phone and I said, give the phone back to her. She gave it to her, and I said, okay, he's understanding that he's not going to have his homework accepted today, and we'll move forward from that. I thank you for calling me. And she was like, okay, and she, you could tell she was really happy that, I supported her, and then I got on him for not doing his homework. So, but she knew that she could call me, and she knew that she could ask me to support her, as a teacher and instructor, and that I would do so. And so because, I was there, and I was able to show up, and she had my cell phone, she'd call me directly. So there would be no excuse why my children can't contact me. I always have my cell phone. We all do. So there's no excuse for why.
Fortunately, your son had your support in the school system like that.
Right. So, but the thing is that, if you're working an 18-hour shift, can she do that? And if you work an 18-hour shift,
she can't do that. Somebody else should have been involved in the school system like that. So, if you could probably go back and dig into why the numbers are so high with the black youth and juvenile system, you'll see where there's a lack of male influence. Dad is not in the family, and nobody else, uncle, grandpa, or didn't step up and was involved in the school system. That's what I'm saying. If they don't see you, that strong parent there to back that child up, being parent-teacher conference, PTA meetings, whatever, they can do whatever to your child if you're not involved in the system. And you take your kids there every day, Monday through Friday, and you don't know what's going on with them, then shame on the parents.
Right. And if my child was arrested, there would have been hell to pay at that school. School district.
You know how I am with my son. Yeah, you know how I am with my son. I was there. Parent-teacher conference, I was there, and I had him sitting there next to me. So he knew that I had his back, and then teachers knew I had his back.
Yeah, so that's good.
They call me like you're saying. They call me Mr. Johnson, Mr. Johnson. Yep.
Right. So, I think it's important that we reconnect so that our children can have the support that they need to keep them from being a statistic. And so, I do appreciate you being here. And
thank you for having me.
We're going to discuss love again, I think, next week. So we can go into details of love and how that looks and how that sounds and what it means, So we'll do that again next week. But thank you for helping me introduce the Blacklove T-shirt Emotions line.
Thank you.
Yes, much love.
And good luck with your line there.
Okay, thank you. And that'll be it for us, you guys. Y'all have sweet dreams. We can find them all real.